It began on a morning in Los Angeles when the sky couldn't decide whether to be pink or steel. From the ocean came damp air, cool and restless, and even the palms on the boulevard looked rumpled, like they hadn't slept. A boy ran along the boardwalk at Venice Beach, a backpack too large for his narrow shoulders bouncing with every step. His name was Eli Duert, 12 years old, and he knew how to run as if speed were the only currency the poor were allowed to spend. The bag felt heavy even though it was half empty. Water, a notebook, the key to the temporary room his mother called our corner, and a flat flashlight gifted by a neighbor mechanic. His mother worked double shifts at an airport cafeteria, smiling until her cheeks hurt, telling him that America hated lateness. Eli had learned to be quiet, watchful, traits more useful than money. That day his job was simple: to sit at the gates of a house on the hill, newly bought by a man named Arthur Cavanaugh. A name that sounded more like an aircraft than a person. Eli was supposed to guard the place from skaters and drifters, until the keys officially changed hands. He was paid more for a day of watching than a week of washing cars at the supermarket lot. His mother had hesitated, but he had convinced her it's legal. I just look and call. When Arthur finally arrived in a sleek car, tall, groomed, tire-dyed, he shook Ellis' hand and smiled crookedly. "You must be the watchman." Eli straightened his back. "I just keep an eye until they move in." Arthur liked his name. He liked, too, that Eli didn't flinch from silence. He told the boy to return on weekends. They'll need someone who notices things. Eli tucked away the paper with Arthur's number like a ticket to a train he wasn't ready to board. But at the bus stop that evening, Eli overheard a man in a bright jacket speaking into a phone, muttering Arthur's name and the address on the hill. The man's smile never touched his eyes. Ellis' instincts buzzed. He called the real estate agent from the disposable phone she'd given him, stammering the warning. She thanked him, told him to stay away. Yet that night, while drinking hot chocolate at Manus food stand, Eli saw two strangers walking. Matching shoes, mismatched stories, too quiet for laborers. And outside, in the alley, the glow of a cigarette lighter flashed once, then died. The air tasted like a secret about to spill. When the house on the hill went dark, its power cut, Eli knew the storm had come early. He slipped through a side gate, heart hammering, and found Arthur cornered in his own kitchen by men who didn't come for things, they came for him. Eli led him through hidden shafts, basements, into crawl spaces. They hid in trenches, ran through the neighbor's attic. Outsmarted night vision with tricks of heat and water. And when the first squad cornered them, Ellis' sharp eye and Arthur's rifle turned shadows against shadows, until the attackers fled into the desert, leaving behind only questions and the smell of menthol cigarettes. By dawn, the police had taped the Hill House like a crime scene. Arthur was alive because a boy noticed too much and refused to be still. Detectives Reyes and Porter pressed Eli with questions, treating him not as a witness but as a camera with legs. Arthur, bruised but steady, told them, "Has not just a boy, has the reason him still breathing." But that night, Ellis' phone buzzed. An unknown number. Package. Picture attached. The photo was of him 12 years old, backpack to bag, sipping hot chocolate outside Manus. Taken from across the street. Someone had been watching not Arthur, but Eli. The net was already closing. The desert began where Los Angeles stopped pretending to be endless. Past the last gas stations and chain restaurants glowing like tired lighthouses. The road unraveled into black ribbons cutting through sand and silence. Arthur drove a gray SUV built to disappear. Eli sat in the back with his mother, feeling every bump, every shadow of scrub brush sliding past. Arthur promised stars like they had never seen. His mother muttered that stars didn't stop bullets. Still, when they turned off the main highway onto a dirt track marked only by a rusted mailbox, the boy felt the weight of the city fall away. The ranch house appeared, one story, plain and square, standing lonely in the dark. Inside, it smelled of cedar and dust, a hideout for someone who had once thought he might need to vanish. By daylight, Arthur showed him the systems: water tanks, generator, satellite dish. Isolation cuts both ways, Arthur said. It makes you hard to reach, but harder to escape. Eli learned how to reset the uplink, to read the generator gauges, even how to hold Arthur's locked hunting rifle with respect. Knowledge isn't danger, Arthur told him. Ignorance is. That night, while the pasta boiled, the satellite console beeped. A message blinked on screen. "How are you safe?" Arthur frowned. This wasn't protocol. He unplugged the console immediately. Someone else was watching the watchers. Near midnight, coyotes cried across the desert, but Eli listened harder and heard a whistle, 3 bursts, to precise, to human. From the window, he caught the flicker of a flashlight. Shapes moved against the ridge. He shook Arthur awake. "They've found us." The siege began with Test's metallic clatter at the generator shed, whispers in the dark. Ellis' plan: flood the drainage trench from the pool. Warm water against the cold air lit up on their sensors, drawing the night vision hunters away. For 5 minutes it worked, but another whistle from the north closed the trap. Then came the crash of glass. Figures inside. Arthur fought with rifle and fists. Eli flashed his light 3 times, tricking one intruder into stepping into the wrong line of fire. His mother swung a skillet with fury. A shot tore the silence, and one attacker went down. But a hiss on a radio froze Ella's blood. Inside. Package confirmed. Secure the boy. It wasn't Arthur they wanted. It was him. They fled through a hidden hatch beneath the pantry floor, crawling through a trench to emerge by the water tanks. Behind them, the ranch house burned, the hunters having set it alight to smoke them out. The desert swallowed them again, their shadows stretching toward a ridge. They climbed into the rocks, chased by beams and gunfire. Stone shattered around them. When they finally dropped into a hollow, chests heaving, Arthur admitted the truth. "They want you alive, Eli. They've been watching you longer than me. Someone thinks your memory, your noticing makes you dangerous." They reached an abandoned mine, its mouth yawning like the throat of something that had eaten men before. Arthur led them inside. Echoes stretched and warped. Hunters followed, their whistles bouncing from wall to wall. Ellis' quick thinking turned the tunnels into a trap, rolling a cart to create false escapes, throwing stones to make phantom footsteps, using flashlight blinks to mimic the enemy's own code. But deeper inside, the cavern opened into the pump chamber, a place of chains, water, and echoes. The hunter's leader called his name aloud. "Eli Duert, we don't want the billionaire. We want you." His voice was smooth, practiced, sure. Eli understood then. They weren't improvising. They had a program, and he was in it. In the cavern, he turned water and light into weapons. He made ghosts from echoes, drowned one intruder in the pool, and lured the rest into collapsing tunnels. But as the dust settled, he found a blinking device shaken loose from their belts, a satellite transponder still alive. Arthur stared. Someone's tracking them in real time, which means someone knows exactly where you are. 10 minutes later, the sound of engines drifted across the flats. More were coming. Arthur gripped Ella's shoulder. "Then we don't hide anymore. We hunt back." And when dawn bled over the desert, the boy with the too big backpack nodded okay. The mine was no longer a refuge, it was a labyrinth built to confuse, betray, and consume. The air pressed cold against their lungs, and every beam of wood creaked like a reminder that time here ran on borrowed minutes. Ellis' flashlight jittered as he followed Arthur deeper, his mom clutching his sleeve like a rope between worlds. The hunters had entered too. Their boots echoed in patterns designed to trick the ear, whistled codes multiplying in the dark. But Ellis' brain turned chaos into map. He scattered stones across tracks so every step sounded like a gunshot. He and Arthur pushed an abandoned cart down a side shaft, the screech, and crash made the intruders chase a phantom escape. And when Eli dragged a shard of iron along the walls, the ringing split the chamber into a dozen false paths. But their enemy adapted. A new voice echoed, amplified. "Calm, Eli Duert. We don't want the others. Just the boy. Walk out, and this ends clean." Arthur's rifle twitched. Eli shouted back into the dark, "Why me?" The voice chuckled, "Because you see what we can't hide." And Eli realized he wasn't a mistake. He was a target selected with precision. They descended into the pump chamber, half flooded, half rotted, filled with chains and black water. The hunters followed, 3 shadows in night vision. Ellis' plan turned the chamber itself against them. He splintered light on the water, pulled the chain to roar echoes like gunfire, hurled stones to make splashes that sounded like bodies falling. Confused, one intruder rushed the wrong tunnel. Arthur fired at the beam above him, collapsing the roof, burying the man in rock and water. The others hesitated. Fear crept in where discipline had lived. When silence fell again, Ellis' eyes found something glinting. The fallen hunter's transponder. Blinking red. Military tech. Someone far away knew their exact location. Arthur cursed. They're not improvising. They're contracted. They escaped through a ventilation shaft, crawling to the desert dawn. The wind carried the thrum of more engines. Minutes only. They stumbled into a wash where Arthur pried open an old phone junction box. Copper still hummed. By miracle, he reached Detective Reyes. Hostiles at Shale Ridge Mine, Arthur reported. Multiple. They want the boy. Reyes' voice was hard steel. Hold out. Units inbound. Airship if the wind holds. And listen, your boy isn't random. We traced a fixer. Borealis Private. They specialize in making witnesses disappear. Minutes later, a drone's shadow swept across the wash. Arthur shielded them with a heat blanket, turning them into part of the ground. The machine veered away, hunting false signals. And just then, Arthur's phone buzzed with a coded message from Ms. Woods. Manny says, same sneakers at Barbershop, Brooks and Riviera. The trail was pulling them back to the city. By noon, Los Angeles wore its mask again. Manus' hot chocolate stand offered normalcy in paper cups, but Ella's eyes scanned reflections in chrome and glass. Across the street, the barbershop with blinds half drawn. A man in the chair with no haircut. Another at the register, sneakers to new. Shadows in the back room. And outside, one pretending to fix a bike but watching the street. Reyes went in with her badge hidden. Porter circled the alley. Arthur watched from a car. Eli sat at Manus, pretending to sip chocolate while his eyes tilted mirrors until the truth lined up. When the raid came, it cracked like thunder. Porter slammed the back door. Reyes twisted a wrist into cuffs, uniforms poured in. But one man slipped away the fixer with a crooked T-scratch on his phone. His bike bore a faded sticker, Borealis Private. That night, in Arthur's safe house, Reyes spread the evidence. They had contracts, payments, satellite phones. But the worst was a folder on the seized server, Aurora. Inside were logs of children like Eli, scattered across cities, marked with evaluations. Some cleared, some failed. Ellis' file was stamped active in red. Aurora wasn't a single job. It was a program, and he wasn't the only one. They stormed a warehouse near the river. Inside, servers, contracts, and a man in a gray suit smiling like boredom. He admitted nothing, but his words spilled enough. We don't make truth. We make version control. Children like him are anomalies. We manage anomalies. On the wall of screens, Eli saw it. The Aurora dashboard, grids with city codes. Lax active, C active. Boss failed. SFO evaluation. Timers ticking down. Kids just like him stalked in silence. Reyes ordered the power cut. Screens died. The man shrugged. Aurora is a market. Kill one node, the others live. But Ella's sharp eyes caught what others missed. On a sat phone SIM tray was a label, or principal, 12, and scribbled on a whiteboard a foundation name overwritten to frame Arthur. Underneath, faint letters surfaced, Nordcrest Capital, and beside it, Evermont Family Trust. Rey's face hardened. We have our principal. Arthur whispered the name like a curse. Adrian Evermont. The phone call confirmed it. Evermont himself hung up when confronted, his silence louder than confession. And now the chase wasn't just about survival. It was about ending Aurora everywhere. The transponder blinked red like a second heart in Ella's hand. Arthur frowned. If we carry it, we're a lighthouse. Eli turned it over. What if we make it point somewhere else? His plan: strap it to a cart and send it crashing into a side tunnel. The hunters chased the ghost signal, their radios barking as they ran the wrong way. Meanwhile, Arthur guided Eli and his mom up an old ventilation shaft into the dawn. The city reached for them again. In a wash outside the desert, Arthur wired an old phone line and reached Detective Reyes. She answered on the second ring, voice sharp, urgent. Units inbound. Listen carefully, this isn't just about you. The company behind the hunters, Borealis Private. They don't just erase witnesses. They erase children who noticed too much. In Los Angeles, the trail led to Brooks and Riviera, a barbershop that was more front than business. Eli spotted the signs others ignored. Sneakers to new, a fake customer with no haircut. A man fixing a bike who never fixed it. Reyes and Porter moved in. Two men were cuffed. One slipped away the fixer with a crooked T scratch on his phone and a Borealis sticker on his bike. That night, evidence from seized laptops revealed Aurora in full. Folders with logs on children across the country. Evaluations, attention to anomalies, retention under stress. Some cleared, some failed. Ellis' file marked active. He wasn't alone. He was one of many. At a riverfront warehouse, they confronted a smooth man in a suit. He called Aurora Market. Children who see too much are liabilities. We redirect liabilities. On the wall of screens, a dashboard ticked, lax active, see active, boss failed, SFO evaluation, timers counting down on kids' lives. Reyes ordered power cut. Screens died. The man shrugged. Markets adapt. But Eli noticed details no one else saw. A SIM tray labeled or principal. 12. A whiteboard with foundation names overwritten to frame Arthur. Underneath, faint letters surfaced. Nordcrest Capital, and tied to it the Evermont Family Trust. Arthur whispered the name like poison. Adrian Evermont. They called him. Reyes' voice was iron. You're on speaker in an active crime scene. Arthur added, cold, you spelled my name wrong when you tried to kill me. Twice. Evermont sighed, then hung up. His silence was admission enough. By the next evening, warrants stacked high. Reporters swarmed glass towers with Evermont's name in brass. Inside, Arthur, Reyes, Porter, and Ellis' mom stood as officers bagged servers and files. Eli watched as Evermont was led out in cuffs, face cracking under flashbulbs. He wasn't untouchable anymore. Reyes crouched to Ellis eye level. You ended a program that thought it could eat kids alive. You seeing those boards gave us the thread. You saved more children than you'll ever meet. Arthur put a hand on Ellis' shoulder. You didn't just save me. You proved that paying attention can change the world. Weeks later, the Hill House was gone. Arthur shifted his work to the ground, closer to people than glass ceilings. Manus hot chocolate stand wore a new sign. First cup free for kids who notice. Eli sat on the curb, sipping from a paper cup, the city moving around him. The world was still loud, messy, dangerous. But for the first time, he felt like noticing could be more than survival. It could be choice. His mom joined him, brushing his hair back with her fingers. She whispered, you did the impossible. Eli shook his head. I just paid attention. And for once, that was enough.